Hi guys, thanks for clicking on the video. This is my LS1 swapped IS300 project. Along the way, I'm going to make some videos, try and help anyone out there that has any questions or run into some issues. Hopefully I can get them sorted out for y'all and help y'all out, kind of take out the guesswork. But today I just set the motor in place and I was figuring out the starting and ignition situation. Before I even throw the LS1 harness in here, I wanted to get the starting situated, and I did that, and I'm going to show you how and what I did to make that happen. Okay, so here is the starter and ignition wire diagram for an IS300. Here's your ignition switch. We're going to be following the black-white wire here. This is for the starter. This is how we're going to get the car to start when you turn the key forward. So let's follow this guy. BW means it's a black wire with the white stripe. It's going to come this way. It's going to go to a 7.5 amp starter fuse. That one's on the inside of the car, on the driver kick panel. And if you have an automatic trans, it's actually going to go out to your transmission to a neutral safety switch. That way it'll only start in park or neutral. It won't start in gear. And then after, well, if you got manual trans, it's going to have a clutch start switch instead of the neutral safety. But either way from there, looks like it comes out here. Then it goes to your starter relay. And then from your relay, it goes to your starter. So what I did here is I had to dig a little deeper and find out what EA1 is, because it seems like a lot of these wires go to plug EA1, 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 EA1. So being a Lexus tech, I have access to certain diagrams and information and shit like that. I was able to look up what plug specifically is EA1, and EA1 is probably the most important plug in this whole swap, and let me show you why. So EA1, this is why it's important. For your neutral safety switch, it comes, how can I explain this? So it goes straight from the 7.5 amp fuse, it goes to the switch and then out of the switch. But what's in common is where the wires are located. EA1, they're in the same plug. That means they come in and out of the same plug. So if you're doing a manual swap, instead of bypassing it at the trans or the shifter, you can actually just bypass it right here at the plug. And here is another reason why EA1 is so important. Here we go, EA1. That is the location of the main starter wire, what's going to trigger the starter solenoid. It comes out of plug EA1. And one more thing that makes the plug EA1 so important, this ignition wire. This is your main ignition source to power anything, only with key forward. And this is coming off of your ignition switch. Ignition 2, that's black wire, red stripe. It's going to come over here. It's going to continue to this page. That's just showing it's going from the interior to the exterior. Plug EA1. Everything comes to this one plug. And I was able to come here, EA1, engine wire and engine room main wire inside of the ECU box. Alright, what that plug is, it's this plug right here. This is the most important plug in your LS swap IS300. So these here are your two wires for the neutral safety switch. One of them is meant to go out to the switch and then return back to the plug. So all you have to do is short those together. In this case, I just soldered them, and I might just tape them up. You can loop them, do what you got to do, put these together, and that way it'll start in any scenario. I did this right off the bat because I wasn't sure how to integrate the 4060 GM park, neutral safety switch into the Lexus. I might be able to do that later, but I know this is a 100% guaranteed way to get the car to start for now. So this wire here is your starter wire. This wire goes straight to the starter solenoid. That's what triggers the starter to engage. The one right beside it, black wire, red stripe, like it said in the wiring diagram, this is your main ignition wire. And so according to the diagram, that main ignition wire actually powers all the coils, all the injectors, and even some more stuff. So yeah, this ignition wire is basically gonna power the LS1 coils, LS1 injectors, anything that I need triggered solely off of ignition power key, key on, will come off of this wire. And it is fused. Let's see, it looks like the fuse for that ignition wire is actually going to be way back here. This 20 amp fuse is what fuses that ignition wire. But if you want, you can maybe run this to a relay, or actually add some additional fuses. But basically this wire is what's going to run the LS1. That's kind of crazy. So really glad it was really simple to get that sorted out. So for the main power wire going to the starter, I was able to use the factory 2JZ starter wire, or cable I should say, because it's really thick. The 2J starter is actually located on the driver's side, and there's this big thick wire that runs along the firewall and straight down. I was able to kind of peel it off of the firewall. You can kind of tell where it used to be. There was some zip ties right here. I was able to grab it, hook it straight down, go straight down to the starter, and this is all the slack there is. So I could probably clean it up, push it down, zip tie it, but it actually was able to utilize the factory starter cable straight to the starter. And as far as the solenoid wire, this purple wire is actually from the LS harness that I got. I just cut and butt connected the solenoid wire to the factory. It was actually the same gauge, and I used a butt connector that has the built-in solder in the center, so it's a good connection. Ran that to the start solenoid. And as far as the ground, you can use the factory grounds. The factory locations on the LS1s are typically in the back of the heads, and sometimes they have one up here in front of the head. So yeah, that's really all you need. Let's give it a quick bump, see if the motor turns over. It's not going to turn on, obviously, because I don't have anything hooked up, literally just the starting system. So yeah, it's as simple as that. That's the basics of what you need to hook up and wire up to get your LS1 to turn over with your factory Lexus key, factory ignition. What I think is cool about doing it this way is you're utilizing the factory starter fuse, the factory starter relay, and it just makes it look cleaner instead of doing anything from scratch. But yeah, in this swap, I'm going to try to utilize as much of the factory fuses, relays, and as much as that as I can, just to make it look clean and simple. Hopefully I don't have to buy like an auxiliary fuse box or auxiliary relay box or anything like that. If anything, I'll just run a couple fuses for the coils and injectors. That's if I can't figure out how to wire them up from the factory fuse box, because there is a fuse for the it actually doesn't call it injectors, it calls it EFI. That's what it is, EFI fuse. Maybe I can wire it up for the EFI fuse to power the injectors and blah blah blah. I don't know, I'm kind of figuring out stuff as I go along, but I know there's a limited crowd or a limited audience on LS swapped IS300s, but hopefully this series gives you a lot of good information. And if you have any questions or advice, or maybe I can do something better, let me know below. I don't know everything, I don't claim to. I am not a master technician by any means. But yeah, if this was helpful to you, like the video, like, subscribe, comment, let me know what's up. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Later.